Now, President William Ruto has highlighted funding wars for Kenya-Haiti mission at UN General Assembly, and a year after giving the nod to the controversial mission in Haiti during a state visit to Washington, President William Ruto now says the multinational security support mission remains replete with underfunding and logistical challenges. Now, during his address to the UN General Assembly, the president termed the current structure of the UN Security Council exclusionary, underscoring the need for urgent reforms to address what he labeled as unfair post-1945 order. Now, the president's fourth address to the United Nations General Assembly came a day after U.S. President Donald Trump made his discrediting the United Nations and bringing New York to a standstill. And taking to the podium, President William Ruto billed the UN fit for purpose, outlining Kenya's heavy load in the region and Haiti, the Kenya-led mission, calling the world's attention to the Caribbean country and the cash crunch facing the mission in Port-au-Prince. And these are the full details to the story.
We have been operating at a 40% capacity. Initially, it was expected that 2,500 security personnel would be made available. Unfortunately, they were not made available. Most of the vehicles were second-hand vehicles, and therefore they broke down a lot many times. And in fact, it put our personnel in great danger. It cannot be what Kenya has gone through, a game of guesswork. The gangs, in my very honest opinion, are cowards.
And away from that, to Haiti mission was misadvised. Kalonzo slams Ruto over his laments at UN General Assembly, and opposition leader, one of the opposition leaders and Wiper Patriotic Front party leader Kalonzo Musyoka has once again criticized President William Ruto over Kenya's role in the Haiti peacekeeping mission, saying the deployment was misadvised from the word go. And speaking during one of the TV shows in the country on Wednesday night, Kalonzo faulted the president for lamenting at the UN General Assembly about underfunding, saying, excuse me, the mission was doomed from the start. He questioned the credibility of the mission, saying it lacked a proper UN Security Council mandate and was unlikely to succeed without global backing. Here, full details to the story.
The mission has operated in a volatile environment under enormous constraints. It has been underfunded, under-equipped, and operated below 40% of its authorized personnel strength. Our police officers have valiantly shouldered responsibilities without the full logistical support that would accompany any mission sanctioned by the United Nations. Despite these challenges, and against all odds, the MSS has delivered results many thought were impossible. Africa deserves, ladies and gentlemen, at the very least, 2 permanent seats with full rights, including the right to veto, and 2 additional non-permanent seats on the United Nations Security Council. Institutions rarely fail because they lack vision or ideals. More often, they drift into irrelevance when they do not adapt, when they hesitate to act, and when they lose legitimacy. To remain relevant, institutions must be reimagined, must be reformed, renewed, and aligned with emerging realities.
Away from that now to Interior CS Murkomen orders arrest of youth caught in viral video discrediting Kenyan flag. And Kenya and Somalia's diplomatic rivalry has flared up again after a viral video showed unruly fans discrediting the Kenyan flag during last weekend's CAF Champions League clash between Kenya Police FC and Mogadishu FC City FC in Nairobi. Now, the clips are showing the flag being stomped on and kicked around have sparked public outrage and official condemnation. Now, Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen has ordered the arrest and prosecution and deportation of the culprits, as Somalia's ambassador to Kenya, Jabril Ibrahim Abdule, also denounced the acts. And the two Mogadishu City FC fans are seen in the viral video taking turns mocking the Kenyan flag. One spreads it on the ground and kicks it into the air, while the other grabs it mid-flight, rubbing it against his crotch as they burst into laughter. Here are the full details to this story.
Hatutakubali mtu yoyote iwe Mkenya ama mgeni kucheza na uhuru wetu na our symbols of national unity, including our national flag. So, Panaiji, take the necessary legal action. Let the law take its course. As a Minister of Interior, we must show the world that we take our national flag seriously. Being in Kenya is a privilege. And when you play around with our national instruments of national unity, you lose the privilege to live in our country.
I have already directed the DCI ya kwamba huyu mtu anakanyaga bendera yetu ya Kenya. Bendera ile ilipiganiwa hapa mpaka tukapata uhuru yetu, si ni kweli? Hiyo anatucheza ama vipi? Na hatuwezi tukakubali kamwe. So the director of Directorate of Criminal Investigation is under direct instructions from the Inspector General, none other than Douglas Kanja Kirocho, that he must move with speed and efficiency and ensure that that man is arrested and taken before a court of law. Alafu koti zetu sifanye kazi yao. Bendera yetu lazima iheshimiwe na kila mmoja wetu.
We regret and firmly condemn the action of few individuals whose behavior overshadow the remarkable performances of our two teams. Such incidents do not reflect the value of respect, friendship, and shared sovereignty that guide relationship between our two brotherly nations, Kenya and Somalia.
And away from that story, now to Nairobi MPs threatened censure motion against Defense CS Soipan Tuya. And Nairobi County MPs are now threatening to move a no-confidence motion against Defense Cabinet Secretary Soipan Tuya over the military recruitment exercise set to begin next month. Led by Nairobi Senator Edwin Sifuna, the MPs say Nairobi residents have been discriminated against in the exercise after only 3 areas were allocated for the exercise, and they claim that there is a possibility that residents from other areas may invade the exercise, and if elected, the issue will discriminate against Nairobi residents. Now, they say despite writing a letter to CS Soipan highlighting the issue, no action has been taken so far, threatening to halt the nationwide exercise until their demands are met. And in a communication dated September 16, 18 MPs representing constituencies in Nairobi argued that the exercise does not adhere to the principles of fairness and non-discrimination as guided by the Constitution. The letter submitted by Embakasi West Member of Parliament, National Assembly Minority Whip Mark Mwenje, signed by 17 others, cited that the current itinerary is skewed against Nairobi County as the Kenya Defense Forces has designated a few recruitment centers against the large populace of the county. Now, the schedule has designated Nyayo Stadium to serve Embakasi East, West, North, South, Kamkunji, Makadara, and Starehe constituencies. The Moi International Sports Center in Kasarani has been designated to serve recruits from Kasarani, Raka, Madare, and Roysambu constituencies. Residents from Dagoretti North, South, Langata, Kibra, and Westlands constituencies will be present themselves at Jamhuri grounds. And the legislators opined that the consolidation of these recruitment centers pose a logistical nightmare, while other counties have been accorded recruitment centers in every sub-county. KDF announced its 2025 nationwide recruitment exercise on September 15, inviting skilled professionals and officers aspiring to serve in its ranks, and the recruitment exercise will take place in October 2025. And from that story, now to Malawi President Lazarus Chakwera concedes election defeat. And Malawi's President Lazarus Chakwera conceded defeat Wednesday in last week's election, saying in an address to the nation that it was clear his rival Peter Mutharika had an insurmountable lead. The former pastor took power in 2020 elections when he defeated the then President Mutharika, a constitutional law expert from the Democratic Progressive Party. Now, Malawi's President Lazarus Chakwera, and a few minutes ago, I called Professor Mutharika to wish him well. Chakwera said just hours before the election authority was due to announce the final results of the September 16 election. Ahead of the announcement, it was clear that my rival Peter Mutharika has an insurmountable lead over me, said Chakwera, 70, from the Malawi Congress Party. And the dire state of the economy dominated the election in the small southern African country, with critics accusing Chakwera of mismanagement and indecisiveness, and also failing to tackle corruption and deliver on promises to create jobs. And we started off with a headlining story as teachers face sack of ghost learners. And Education Ministry officials say an audit of learners in 32,000 schools, which has already flagged 50,000 ghost entries, will be completed tomorrow, revealing the full extent of the scandal. Authorities warn that teachers found culpable will face sanctions. There is a story that you'll find on pages 4 and 5 of the Daily Nation this morning. And JSC fights 8 trillion suit on rogue judges and lawsuit. 3 tech firms have sued the Judiciary Service Commission seeking 8 trillion Kenyan shillings in compensation for loss of business allegedly caused by misconduct of 10 judges in a protracted dispute. Now, the petitioners accuse the judiciary of entrenched impunity, but the JSC, led by Chief Justice Martha Koome, has opposed the civil claim. That is a story that you'll find on page 10 of the Daily Nation this morning. And the president reveals the fate of missing officer in Haiti. That is a story that you'll find on page 2 of the Daily Nation as well. Among other stories, Gachagwa's conditions to opposition partners, that is on page 11. And Cherotich, it's just the beginning. That is a story that you'll find on page 31. This is in regards to the recently concluded. This is in your spot in the Nation this morning. And the road, around 16 billion Kenyan shillings amount of money disbursed to schools, with 7 billion withheld as scrutiny continues, and 3,485 number of primary schools that missed state funds after submitting wrong data, including 719 that filed wrong bank details. That is a story that you'll find on page. That is a story that you'll find on pages 4 and 5 of the Nation this morning in regards to the teachers who are going to be facing a sack over ghost learners. From the Daily Nation now to the Standard. insensitive is the headlining story. The family of a slain officer, Benedict Kabiru, was still pleading with police bosses and petitioning the courts for answers when President William Ruto dropped a bombshell at the UN General Assembly, declaring Kabiru among 3 Kenyans killed in Haiti. The revelation blindsided caught relatives off guard, who insist they were never formally informed. For months, they had endured silence from the state, the Inspector General, and even the Attorney General's office. Now they are left reeling, grappling with not just Kabiru's death, but a chilling reminder of a government that buries truth in protocol, forcing grieving families to learn of their loved ones' fate from international podiums. That is a story that you'll find on page 4 of the Standard this morning. And why do I have to learn of my son's death through social media and from a speech abroad? Since May, we have knocked on doors seeking answers in vain. What exactly are they not telling us? That is Jacinta Wanjiko, a missing officer's mother. And that is a headlining story on the Standard this morning. And this is the sport that is going to be played tonight. That is in the Europa League competition, where Go Ahead Eagles are going to be playing with FCSB, and Lille are going to be playing against Brann, as Aston Villa are going to be playing against Bologna. FC Salzburg are going to be playing against FC Porto. FC Utrecht are going to be playing against Lyon. France Veras are going to be playing against Victoria Plizen. Rangers are going to be playing against Genk. VfB Stuttgart are going to be playing against Celta Vigo. And Young Boys are going to be playing against Panathinaikos. And away from the Europa League, in La Liga, Osasuna is going to be playing against Elche, and Real Oviedo are going to be playing against Barcelona. And from that to your morning weather, today in Muranga, it is going to be mostly cloudy with highs of 28 degrees and lows of 14 degrees. And in Kisumu, it is going to be mostly cloudy with highs of 28 degrees and lows of 19 degrees. As in Mombasa, it is going to be partly cloudy with highs of 29 degrees and lows of 22 degrees. And in Nairobi, it is going to be mostly cloudy with highs of 27 degrees and lows of 12 degrees. And your morning quote this morning: the science of today is the technology of tomorrow. Edward Taylor is the author of this quote. The science of today is the technology of tomorrow. And that sums up the breakfast show this morning. Let us see you tomorrow as we usher in the weekend. Good morning.